Now, it's BoomerLife, lifestyle discussion designed to make your life more engaging, meaningful, and complete. Celebrating the baby boomer generation, this is BoomerLife on CIL 650.
Blue days, all of them gone. Nothing but blue skies from now on.
Good evening. Welcome to Boomer Life. I wish the sky was blue. It's just a little late in the day for that theme, but there's Bobby Darin helping to start things off for this episode of Boomer Life. And on the program today, we're talking about retirement living with our friends from Revera Retirement Living and Crofton Manor in Vancouver. It's a pleasure to welcome Irish Webb to the program. Irish is a lifestyle consultant. Hello there.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
Oh, it's good to have you with us. And Irish has brought Andrew Ebers along for the ride. Andrew is Director of Recreation at Crofton Manor. Hello there.
Hi there. How's it going?
Oh, not bad. You have both interesting stories to tell us. Irish, you have a background in education. You've been with Revera at Crofton Manor for less than a year, but you've been out there in public education for quite a number of years. Why did you make the switch? Give us a little background of the story here.
Okay, sure. Yeah, well, I actually worked in private post-secondary education for 12 years.
Okay.
And, in looking at a career change and perhaps where I'd like to see myself and, where I'd like to help out and help people, just led me to Crofton Manor for Revera.
Interesting stuff. And Andrew, you're now as a Director of Recreation, I have to assume that that comes along with some credentials and all that sort of stuff. So talk about your academic background that allows you to be a Director of Recreation in a retirement community.
Sure. So I went to school for 4 years to Douglas.
Okay.
And I took many courses on assessments and how to basically health and wellness background programs so that I could better help people. And then at the end, I had to take these special certification exams. And so I took the certification exams, and so I have the degree in therapeutic recreation from Douglas, as well as a certified therapeutic recreation specialist designation.
Okay, so that's kind of a double whammy, which makes you pretty attractive, I'm sure, to a company like Revera. Now, how long have you been at Crofton Manor?
A little bit less time than Irish, actually, by about a month.
Oh, I see. So you're both in your first year with Revera.
Yes.
Well, now that's an interesting perspective because Revera is a big company with properties and communities all over Canada. So when you work for a company as large as Revera in a specific location like Crofton Manor, what's that like? Irish, what's it like working for Revera?
Oh, it's fantastic, and it's definitely a household name. And what's really great is we do sometimes communicate with families who are all across Canada, and it's nice that we have names in usually most of those communities.
Sure.
So. Yeah.
Well, and Revera also does a fair bit of advertising, and they've had a campaign run. I don't know whether it's running into the new year yet, but up until Christmas, the campaign was on radio and television as well, and it was sort of about the myths that surround retirement communities, one of which, and I remember this specifically from the radio ad, a woman's voice comes on and goes, "They're going to lock me up and throw away the key." And and that's and you're the lifestyle consultant. You're the person in the office that people come to see at Crofton Manor, Irish. How many people have come to you, particularly seniors, inquiring or maybe being dragged along kicking and screaming to a meeting they're not happy about, but how many of them are of that mindset that an old folks' home is where they take you and lock you up and throw away the key?
Well, we do see a lot of people for a lot of different reasons that come through our door. Definitely, they want to see what it looks like, now versus what they may have, thought. And that's often why they're there, to come in and have a look and see what it is that the community looks like and how it can improve the lives of seniors.
Well,
and parents.
certainly the retirement industry in Canada in the last 10 to 15 years has just bloomed. It's gone crazy. There's a whole new thing going on coast to coast in this country for seniors that simply was not there. It didn't exist 10 or 15 years ago to the extent that it does today. But if you're 75, 85, 95 years old, and someone comes to you out of the blue and says, hey, how about you move into a retirement community? You know, a lot of people of that age think, the first thing they think is, they want to put me in an old folks home. So you take a 75 or 80-year-old person and ask them what a retirement community must look like. If they're not connected to today, they're going to go back to when they were little people. And there's those awful retirement homes, those old folks' homes, those gothic, horrible places that's where they institutionalized seniors. And so when you have people coming to your office at Crofton Irish, and sometimes I'm sure you sense a little reticence, a little, I'm not real crazy about this, on the part of some seniors, I think sometimes it has to do with what they imagine a retirement community to still be like. And part of what you have to do is say, no, I'm afraid that's a really antiquated version of what seniors can expect in Canada in 2015.
Oh, yeah, it's really great if someone does take the time to come in and see our community, because it's lively and there's entertainment and many social programs that definitely Andrew can speak more to directly. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people having a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Andrew, talk to us a little bit about, again, the another, and as long as I'm following your own commercial here, you two. Mm-hmm. You're the ones that are myth busting on your ad campaigns. They're not going to lock you up and throw away the key, and it's not an environment, Andrew, in which one's time is micromanaged. You never have a minute to yourself. You don't. There's always somebody saying you got to go do this now, and you got to go do that. So again, this is a wrong impression. Talk to us about what it's really like in terms of your ability to control your time and what you get yourself involved in.
So living at Crofton is a lot about choice. And so every single day you have an option to do many, many things. So as Irish mentioned, mm-hmm. we have, in the afternoon, we have some entertainers. And we're starting in February, we'll have entertainers all the time. Mm-hmm. But it's a choice to go there. And we also have a whole bunch of other programs. Like we have this program called the Java Music Club. And it allows us to just sit and talk and have like almost a counseling session with some of our peers and some of our friends. And we only have a few people who come to that, and it's a really close-knit community. Okay. Like just a whole bunch of, and that's how our days usually are.
Oh, so is the
Java Music Club.
Now you've got my curiosity piqued here, because I'm a music guy. So is this a small group of music lovers, or is that just the name of the club, and it's actually kind of an intellectual chat forum?
It's an intellectual chat forum. Okay. So it's invented by a person from UBC. And it's a nationally recognized program, and it's really good just to help people break out of their shells. Say if you're uncomfortable moving to a new place, sure, and you want to meet some new people, it's like a really great way to just step into that community, get really friendly with a whole bunch of people, and then sing too. So if you like to do that, you just get to sing along with a whole bunch of people. It's a lot of fun.
Irish, let me pick up on what Andrew was just saying there, because if you're uncomfortable meeting new people, right, most of us are. Mm-hmm. And so here you are, all of a sudden in your senior years, and your boomer kids, all of a sudden now they're trying to get you to go live in a seniors retirement community, and you don't know how you feel about all of that. So then they go and they'll arrange for an appointment. Yes. So the boomer kid and the mom or dad, or if they're really lucky, both, shows up at your office at Crofton Manor. So there'll be two sets of questions here. Okay. And I'm curious as to what both parties are most interested in. When we, the boomer kids, have questions for you, what kind of stuff do we want to know about?
Absolutely. Often some of the questions might be around nutrition and food plans. Okay. What's the dining like? They might want to look at the menus and how that works. In terms of the resident themselves, often it might be socials and programs. Okay. And actually, both usually will ask that. The whole family might want to know what's happening socially and for the recreation programs.
Okay. Typically, Irish, when people come to see you, is that first kind of investigative visit. Is it usually done by us boomers, by ourselves, trying to get our ducks in a row before bringing mom or dad with us? Or is it more likely to be just a senior showing up by him or herself independently? What's more typical in terms of people just sort of popping in to see you?
You know, that's a great question. If I'm thinking about the last sort of just year, I'd say it's a nice balance of both.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's a nice balance of both, and often as a joined family as well, coming in to explore options and have a look at the communities together.
You were talking about nutrition.
Yes.
And how we boomers frequently ask about nutrition.
That's right.
And a lot of this, I think, Andrew, in some ways has to do with the fact that one of the signs that causes a little anxiety in us boomers is when we notice that mom or dad isn't eating as well as we know they used to, and more importantly, than they need to. Nutrition habits and routines sort of fall apart. They're not as rigorously observed. And so that's a concern on the part of the boomer because, without, as you know, you're the guy with the degrees in recreation and in health. If you don't have your health and if you're not eating properly, you don't have much of a foundation to build anything else on, do you?
It's really true. I think that one of the things that people forget is that nutrition is one of the first visible things to go, while there's other things that may be happening at the same time.
Right.
So you can see the person's not eating right, but what you're not seeing is maybe they're not putting their clothes on correctly,
right,
or something like that. So one of the challenges is that, like, my dad right now takes care of my grandmother at home.
Okay.
And it's a mistake. And I try to tell him that all the time because you can see from a health perspective, like I'm his son, but I can see from a health perspective all the challenges. And my only hope is that he recognizes it soon enough so that he can get her into a home like this.
I'm curious because you've kind of, it's a very interesting scenario you've created because you've got grandma and your dad who's doing his level best to look after her because she's his mom.
Yeah.
She looked after him for his whole life. It's the least he can do. So whose health issues, though, are you most concerned about? Grandma's or your dad's? Because there's an awful lot of stress involved with being the kid looking after the senior.
So my grandmother's is sick. That's just the way it is.
Okay.
She's just older. She's 96.
Okay.
She's moving on in years. But my dad, he doesn't have time right now to be able to go out and do the things that he needs to do for himself. I saw him the other day and his hair was a little bit long and it just didn't seem like he had a lot of time to himself. And so he has a sister, right? My aunt, and she comes by occasionally, but she really is not as close available, and so they're not able to do the interaction that they really need to do, and so a lot of his time is spent managing all of those things. And if you're at Crofton, if she were at Crofton, we'd be taking care of those things for her, which would be such a huge stress relief off of her, off my dad, I mean, and off my grandmother too. It would just make things a little bit easier. She's always asking hey, what, are you sure this is okay, that sort of thing. And he always says yes, but really he really needs to take a step back, I think, and take a look and see, hey, you know what? She actually needs to be somewhere else where they can take better care.
Right. Well, they call us boomers the sandwich generation, and for a good reason, Irish, because there you are on the one hand trying to, in many cases, we're still working. We have children in college or university, and so there's that element of your life to worry about. There's your job, your career, your mortgage, your responsibilities, and there's a senior parent who needs attention and care and time. And that's, of course, the biggest component in many cases, Andrew, is just the time. And, so you just start running out. I wonder when boomers come to see you in your office at Crofton Manor, how many of them, without mom or dad in the room, just close the door and talk a little bit about how important they know this is for mom or dad, but how critical it is for them as well to have mom or dad in a retirement community.
Well, I think one of the keys there is that there's a lot of worry involved, so it will occupy a lot of their time. They love and care for their parents so much, and so that will often occupy their mind, after work, whatnot. I I want to go there. I don't know if she's seen someone socially in the last couple of days, whatever the case may be. So as Andrew mentioned, if someone is here in our community, well, they've perhaps had dinner with someone or maybe been part of a program, so that, that part of the worry might be off that adult child in that way.
It can be pretty stressful, as Andrea, you're observing firsthand. Your dad's the caregiver here, and it's very, very demanding, physically and psychologically.
Well, you see that, like even managing medications, for example, like at a place like Crofton, we have people who can do that.
Right.
But my dad has to make guesses, educated guesses, because he goes into the hospital one day and they give him something. But at retirement living at Crofton, we have people whose job it is to take care of that for you.
Of course. And people who have a little background in exact dosages.
Exactly. My dad was just recently talking about a statin drug that the hospital gave my grandmother.
Blood thinners, yeah.
But at 96, it's not really appropriate unless she was high stress.
Right.
But that's hospital stress. So is that the same thing as her having high blood pressure? And so he's working on managing that dosage when really
he's not a doctor.
He's not a doctor.
Right.
And that's a lot of the stresses that other people could have. Like sometimes hospitals, they just see people for 10, 20, 30 minutes. They go in, they come out, and then they assign them drugs, and then their own doctor doesn't know.
Right.
So it's
well, and this phenomenon, the sandwich generation, is putting a smile on it, but it's a pretty stressful situation that many of us boomers find ourselves in. And as you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of emotion involved, Irish.
Absolutely.
And one of those emotions, I'm afraid, is guilt. As the case, as I said about Andrew's dad, it's his mother. She's his mom. She's taken care of him her whole life. And I'm sure he says in his mind, it's the very least I do. I owe this woman my life. And so there you are. There he is trying to do his best in way over his head, especially with things like meds. But, he's doing it because he knows he should. But there's a lot of guilt floating around in there. And it's really, in some cases, it's an impediment to going, well, I really need to step back, and mom or dad really need to be independent in a senior's retirement environment. A lot of people, a lot of boomers, a lot of us kids find it difficult to let go. Are you experiencing that in your office with some of these meetings at all, Irish?
Absolutely. And I mean, one of the nice shifts that can take place is if they do make the transition into a retirement community, often that adult child now, instead of worrying, for example, about, what Andrew was saying about, the medication or things that they might have been concerned with, if someone else is doing that, then they can just go back to having those lovely visits, maybe playing a game and really being present and just having that relationship that it used to be, as opposed to the caring.
That would be the stress-free, fun kind of relationship. Wouldn't it? We're talking retirement living with our friends from Revera Retirement Living, specifically Crofton Manor, and the address and location, if you please, Irish, of Crofton Manor in Vancouver is, well, I got the phone number. That one. Where are you located?
It's 2803 West 41st Street.
Oh, right there. Okay.
Right in Vancouver.
Kerrisdale,
very
on
close
the west
to
side of town. And if you look them up on the web, it's reveraliving.com, and then you just find Crofton Manor and click on that, and there's Andrew's picture and Irish's picture and all of the information you need. Check it out while we take a quick break on Boomer Life here on CIL 650.
Canada's only weekly radio show dedicated to the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CIL 650.